Welcome in, everybody, to Beyond the Mic. After a brief one-week hiatus, we are back, and there was a lot that happened in the 2 weeks we have been away. Hello, Merry Christmas, John Clendenin, joined by Carlos Zimmermann, producer Justin, of course, with us as always. As today, we have a very fun day planned. We're going to talk college football playoffs. We're going to talk Texas high school football playoffs. We're going to talk about the NFL, and then we are going to talk about America's hero, John Cena's last ride in the WWE this weekend. But we start, as we always do, with college football. And, gentlemen, the field is set.
Yes, it is.
It is time now for the college football playoffs, starting not this week, but next weekend. And as we look here at the bracket, if I can actually pull it up, there it is on ESPN. Indiana 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4, Oregon 5, Ole Miss 6, A&M 7, Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Miami 10, Tulane 11, and James Madison 12. So, Carlos, swing it to you. Where do you want to start? What do you like? What do you not like? What are you perplexed by? As we now know the 12 teams vying for a national title.
Well, here, I'll just start with this. I was skeptical with how the committee was going to plan all of this out. And I think at the end of the day, the committee got just about all of it right. I think all the teams that deserve to be in there are in there. The one caveat, and probably going to be the topic of conversation on this podcast today, is the importance of conference championships, and if you lose them, should it hurt you as bad? But it didn't hurt Alabama after they got throttled by Georgia, but they still managed to get into the playoff. But you got teams like BYU that were left out of the playoff because of them getting throttled in their conference championship, but it was really the same scenario for BYU as it was for Alabama, so why did Alabama get in over BYU? That'll be a big question to talk about today. Top 4 seeds, I think, are very much correct. Indiana wins the Big Ten championship. They move to 1. Ohio State, with the pedigree they had during the regular season, they stay at 2. That's the way it should be. Georgia dominated in the SEC title game over Bama. They deserve of the 3, and then Texas Tech dominated BYU. They get that last one there. Oregon in at the 5. I like that. That shows a lot of respect to what they did during the regular season. Ole Miss, same thing at 6. A&M, that lost to Texas, very much looming, and now you didn't get into the SEC title game. That puts you down at the 7, but you still got in with what you did prior to that Texas game. Oklahoma 8, 9, Alabama, that's going to be the big question for me. Why did they get in over BYU? Miami in at the 10 spot. That's another topic of conversation. That was a bit of a hot one with Notre Dame being left down because Miami beat them in week 1 of the regular season. And then, me, I'm a group of 5 guy, being the voice of Sam Houston. Obviously, I love the group of 5. Tulane and James Madison, they both get in with their respective wins in their conference championships. And we talked about JMU. Very much was an outlier in the middle of the season. They finally backed their way in on the tail end of the year and able to get into the college football playoff for the first time, showing that teams that are fresh from the FCS to the FBS, it's possible to get to the field of 12. But, my big issue, you would think it would be Notre Dame not getting in. No, I don't have a problem with Notre Dame getting in, and we could talk about that later in a moment. My big thing was, why did Alabama get in after being just throttled by Georgia in the SEC title game, but BYU went through the same thing and, in my opinion, had the better season and the better resume than Alabama did? Why did the Crimson Tide get in? Is it name notoriety? Is it that old SEC bias, if you will, with the bevy of SEC teams that got into the college football playoff this year, almost filling half of the field? I'm not a fan of them getting in over a team in BYU that I thought had the better resume.
How did BYU have the better resume? Who did they beat?
Bama's lost to Florida State. Continued to look worse and worse as the weeks went on.
I completely understand.
But here's my thing about it. if you're going to punish teams for losing their conference championships, you got to be right across the board.
Okay, Carlos, they lost to Texas Tech this year by a combined score in 2 games of 63-14.
How much did Bama lose by?
They won one of their 2 games against Georgia. You're 1-1 against Georgia, including a win at Sanford Stadium.
Okay.
BYU looked non-competitive against Texas Tech. Now, I understand that there is some outrage, and I would say justifiable, on the perceived maneuvering of this committee to include the SEC in the way that they did. Here's the thing, though, that people don't want to talk about. The SEC is still the best conference in college football.
No, there's no doubting that.
Okay, so they were always going to get in 2 teams that made the championship game. You're not going to take a team out for losing the SEC championship game. All right? The Big 12, however, it just showed that, hey, Texas Tech is the clear class of the Big 12. You had a chance to go and play against them again. And I think if BYU looked competitive, they're probably in ahead of Miami. My problem with the committee is that we sit here throughout the entire year and we say, well, BYU's better than Miami. BYU's better than Miami. BYU's better than Miami. Okay, and then they lose a conference championship game that Miami doesn't play in, and Miami was never going to play in. For the last 4 weeks, we knew Miami wasn't going to play in this game, right? And then you take BYU out of it, right? So that there is my issue with the BYU question. Because I think it shows some more hypocrisy across the board that this playoff committee had absolutely no idea what they were doing. In that you say, okay, 5 through 8, they didn't play. So we don't really feel like we can move them up or justify them changing positions, right? That's what Hunter Yurchek said about A&M and Ole Miss, which is just complete farce, right? A&M had a better resume by every metric. By every eye test, A&M was better. Okay? They lost to Texas. Right? And I think that had a sour taste in people's mouth the way that you blew a halftime lead against Texas. Right? Who, in the last month of the year, played like the preseason number 1 team that they were. I don't want to, as much as I talked about Texas struggling against Kentucky and Mississippi State and losing to Florida in October, in November they were one of the best football teams in the country. And it really started that turnaround with that Vanderbilt win when they finally got to go back home. So you say that, well, we can't move anybody in the 5 through 8 because they didn't play. And then all of a sudden, Miami moves up not 1 spot, but 2 spots. And to me, this said, well, we can't alienate an entire conference. And I just don't understand how for the entire year, and shout out Reese Davis for asking the hard questions of the Arkansas AD whenever they revealed it. And he said, how did we get here? And he said, well, we thought Notre Dame was better than BYU, and we thought BYU was better than Miami. But then whenever BYU fell out, because they lost a conference championship game, and we moved Miami up 1, well, then we start comparing head-to-head. How do you not think that Miami is better than Notre Dame the entire time? You know what I'm saying? You can't say, well, we think Team A is better than Team B, Team B is better than Team C, but Team C has been better than Team A. Like when we just haven't even looked at it yet. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. So, I think that the message is clear. Notre Dame has to join a conference. I want to know if this memorandum of understanding that they signed, does it apply to UConn? If UConn goes 12-0 next year, do they get to be in if they're automatically in the top 12? Or because Or is it just Notre Dame special treatment? In which case, this AD that's saying, the ACC has done irreparable harm to our relationship with them. No, they should have forced you to be in the ACC whenever they let you play in the ACC championship game and put you in the playoffs in 2020. That's a load of baloney. And so if they're going to pack their ball up and take their ball and say, you know what, we don't want to play anybody in a bowl game, we're going to focus. I would say, okay, fine. Go play all the MAC schools you want. You're not playing any ACC schools. And the Power 4 needs to freeze them out until they join a conference. Because it's ridiculous to sit there and say, we're Notre Dame and we deserve this.
And then tuck your tail between your legs and
Yeah.
then not play in a bowl.
Not playing a bowl game.
And do that to your athletes. That worked so hard during the year.
It might cost Jeremiah Love the Heisman.
It might.
You know what I'm saying?
It very well might.
It may cost him the Heisman. So one of your best players in the history of your program, you have robbed your fans and the world of getting to see his final game, be a meaningful game. Now, I'm not saying he would have played. I have no idea with opt-outs and stuff in bowl games. But to sit there and say, well, we're the premier brand, teams don't get to go in on premier brand alone. That's what I like about the group of five being in. Okay? And this year, it did do some damage with Duke kind of messing everything up for everybody. But it gives teams like Tulane and James Madison something to play for. That's the whole purpose of why you did this. Right? When the playoff first came about in 2014 and the BCS was done, all the playoff commercials were, I remember the first playoff commercials, it was people in Hawaii being like, there's no computers to keep us out now.
Yeah.
Okay? This shows proof of concept that what you wanted to happen happened. And now people don't like it because the big dogs don't get to eat at the table.
Yeah.
All the time.
And you know what? I have a foolproof solution to that. Expand the playoff again. But not go to 16. You need to, what they need to do, and this may be a hot take, what they need to do is double it and do what the FCS does. Every conference champion gets in, and the big dogs get a seat at the table. It's a process that has worked at the FCS level for a long time. What needs to happen here is people need to put their pride aside and stop hovering over these precious bowl games and realize that the game has changed so much. If they expand it out and include more teams, I think it could solve a few issues. It could bring up a few more issues, but it could solve a couple of the problems with teams being left out.
Here's my problem with that. I think that the exclusivity of it is something that matters. Okay? Because if we doubled it right now, all right, are you saying that Iowa should be in the playoff?
No.
Okay, well then Iowa would be in the playoff if that happened.
How?
Because they're ranked in the top 24.
I'm saying you take the 10, because you look at next year, the Pac-12 is going to be revitalized, so you're back to 10 leagues. So every conference champion gets in, but not all of them get seeded. Just like the FCS does. And then you take the best of the rest.
So you would have Duke in the playoff.
Yes.
8-5 Duke.
Yes.
You would have Kennesaw State in the playoff.
Yes. Unseeded.
You'd have Western
Michigan. Unseeded.
Boise State.
Unseeded.
It gives everyone motivation to win their conference. That gives everybody
I
something to
understand
play
that,
It
but-
revives conference championship games across the board, not just at the Power Four. But at the same time, so to that point, Iowa wouldn't get in because they would not be in the best of the rest that are in there. I'm not saying all the conference champions need to be in the CFP top 25. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying all the conference champions, they get an auto bid to the bracket, and you bracket them accordingly, with the best champions getting buys and the other ones having to play in round one.
So I'm trying to sit here and 1, 2, 3. I think that it's just not gonna. There's gonna be nothing perfect that's going to.
It's not. I'm not saying it's going to please everybody.
Really, what needs to happen is you need to move the bowls, and this goes to a whole broader college football schedule thing. The bowls need to become non-conference week 1 games. All you need to do is play the bowl games throughout August. Now, granted, some of these bowls are going to be a little hotter in August.
Yeah.
But I also think some of these bowls aren't going to be like snow bowls that we see in like the Pinstripe Bowl.
Right.
Right? So I don't think that the playoff. I think the playoff at 12 works. I think what needs to change is just don't put the number by the name. If we just see the top 12 and we see Miami and Notre Dame are in the top 12, right? Then okay, you can debate all you want about where they're at. But if you don't show the number until the end of the year, then there's not this perceived, well, we got messed over, right? That Notre Dame has. Well, you showed us every week that we were ahead of Miami, and then neither of us play, and all of a sudden Miami jumps in front of us. If you don't show that, you just show the top 12 teams, right? And you just put them in the bracket, and then you put 11 and 12, or you don't even put them in a bracket. You just show that here are our top 12 teams. It's solved. It's all this talk about getting jumped and all that is solved. People are still going to argue and debate about who's there and who's what, right? But I think what this has shown is that at the end of the day, we had an 8 versus a 7 matchup last year, right? That'd be the equivalent of A&M playing Oklahoma this year.
Yep.
Do we think that's going to happen? I have no idea.
It's possible.
It's possible, right? A&M and Oklahoma would have to go and play the 2 top Big Ten schools. There's going to be a lot of talk about Big Ten versus SEC if that happens. But I think at the end of the day, what really needs to change before we start talking about expanding the playoffs again and, you know, giving every conference champion a seat at the table and all these things is, number one, we have to get rid of independence. There's no reason to play independent football anymore.
It's got to go.
It's got to go. Notre Dame, UConn, y'all have to go find conferences.
And UConn already has a relationship with the American.
Yes.
Having been in the American. What hurt UConn was the Big East falling apart in football.
Yes.
So
And you know, if they want to go, where do they play basketball in the Big East, right?
Big East.
Yeah, just go play in the American. That's where all the other Big East schools play. Just go.
Have football.
That have football. They all play in the American. So just go play there. Notre Dame, if you don't want to play in the ACC anymore because you say there's been, quote, permanent damage done.
Go to the Big Ten.
Go, if they'll take you. I don't even think they'll take you. But you know what? Go find a conference. Go join the MAC because you love playing those MAC schools anyways. I'm tired of Notre Dame parading around acting like they're this big brand that matters in college football when really they don't. They haven't been relevant since 2012 with the exception of last year, which even then, they lost to Northern Illinois.
Yep.
More often than not, Notre Dame is the punchline, not the puncher. So I think if you revitalize how the committee is made, right, I think a third of it should be retired football coaches, right? You're a head coach for X amount of years or more. Okay, you're eligible to be on the playoff committee. Those guys know ball, right? I think a third of it should be computer nerds that have never seen a football field. Because then your advanced metrics matter. Because those things do matter, right? Like, it's kind of like the Moneyball thing, where it's like, okay, hey, you know, over the course of a season, if it's these metrics line up to point to how good a team is. But at the end of the day, you still got to sack bunt. You still got to know the game. So, but I think the nerds, the computer nerds, would be able to be like, hey, well, analytically, this team is actually really, really good, and they kind of get overlooked because the football coaches are like, Indiana was never good whenever I was a coach, right? Just as an example of like, let's say last year, right? And then if you want administrative people or things like that, go put them on the committee, right? But they need to be retired. There's no reason why a coach that's been running or an AD that's been running a coaching search since October should be on the college football playoff selection committee.
Yes.
Their time is not being budgeted to putting out the best product. I think that's what we saw this year. So I think before we expand the playoffs again, and we do all this talk, because the thing about the college football playoffs is there still needs to be some exclusivity to it. As much as the FCS model works, I think that at the same time, we tend to see the same 3 or 4 teams for the most part.
Not this year.
No, I know not this year. That's why I said for the most part. I understand Illinois State beat North Dakota State for the first time in 14 years. So that's 14 years that North Dakota State beats up on Illinois State. I don't want to see that happen. These runs of dominance. And with the money that's in play at the FBS level now, with the millions of dollars these teams are paying on rosters and things like that, it's how does one say? It's a little different, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I think 12 works. But going into the actual playoff, I don't love. We have 2 rematches of games you've already seen this year. I really do think that Ole Miss should have been 7. A&M should have been 6. I think Alabama should have probably been 10. And I would have had Notre Dame 9. So if we do that, that's Ole Miss versus Alabama, which, by the way, we haven't seen this year. That's Notre Dame at Oklahoma. Or, even if you want Miami at 9.
No, that's not who I wanted. I thought they got Ole Miss right at 6 and A&M right at 7 and OU at 8. I think Bama should have been at 10. BYU at 10. And then I'll walk back what I said, and probably you have Bama in the right spot. I don't think Notre Dame belonged at all because of their metric. Their metric is head-to-head. They didn't belong. If you didn't play in your conference championship, I feel like that walked you back a little bit more. If BYU was to get in, it would have been at that 10 spot.
My only problem we have is we keep on throwing the word metric around. Okay, the committee selectively chooses what metrics they want to fit the narrative of their bad decisions. Okay, because I can sit here and say blue in the face, strength of record, strength of schedule, key personnel leaving, including head coaches and players. Okay, all of that, the entire list of what the committee is supposed to seed on points to A&M being ahead of Ole Miss. The entire list. Ole Miss lost their head coach. They lost half their offensive coaching staff, which the report just came out. They're coming back for at least this game. Right? Their strength of record is worse. Their strength of schedule is worse. This myth about A&M not playing a tough schedule, their strength of schedule is still 15th in the country. Right?
We're not talking about this.
But
if you beat Texas.
I understand that.
And you're in the conference championship
yes.
Instead of Alabama. And Alabama's probably not even in the playoff.
But they're 11-1. No, Alabama would have been in the playoff because they would have been 10-2. They would have had wins over Vanderbilt and over Georgia, and they wouldn't have gotten blown out by Georgia in the playoff.
No, I'm saying if A&M had beat Texas and played Georgia in the title game, Bama's not in the playoff.
Yes, they are. They were in the top. They were 8th. They would have been. They would have been in over Oklahoma.
Okay. But still,
I understand that, but so why is A&M's loss to Texas on the road by 10 points so debilitating to A&M's playoff case?
look, you said all year long, and I'm going to just say this from this standpoint, you were crowning them de facto national champions throughout the majority of the season.
I completely understand that.
And I'm saying you needed to beat Texas to get a bye for one thing.
Absolutely.
And you had been talking about it all year long, but now you're not. But now you're upset that you got put behind Ole Miss.
Yeah, because
and now you're
who's a better football team, Ole Miss or Texas A&M?
Playing right now?
Playing right now.
To me, it's a toss-up.
So you
got 2 electric quarterbacks,
okay,
2 really solid offenses,
okay,
and it comes down to your defense at the end of the day. What allows you to win games?
Who's coaching Ole Miss?
Their DC.
Has he ever been a head coach before?
No, he hasn't. But that's speculating what's going to happen because he hasn't had a chance to coach a game yet.
Okay, so if his first ever head coaching game, all right, his second ever head coaching game is going to be against Georgia. Who are you taking, Kirby Smart?
I will take Georgia.
Or Ole Miss?
I will take Georgia 1,000%. But we're not there yet. They're playing Tulane. Their focus right now is Tulane. Texas A&M's focus right now is Miami. And then, on the other side, you got to play one of the favorites for the national championship this year.
But what I'm saying is that Ole Miss okay, if we want to get into the A&M Texas game, we can. A&M versus Texas, A&M didn't have their starting running back, didn't have their starting
Excuses.
And they lost.
You're still a better team than Texas without those guys. I saw Texas this year. Granted, it was an anomaly because Sam Houston had struggles this year. But I saw Texas this year. A&M was by far the better team than the Longhorns was, and you lost.
Okay, so I'm not saying that you are wrong.
You were crowning Marcel Reed as a Heisman favorite.
And then he went and crapped the bed, and we just saw with the 4 guys that were there that just got announced as the final 4 for the Heisman, that performance against Texas cost him a chance to go to New York, right or wrong, okay? So A&M played their worst game of the season, point blank period, against the Longhorns. That day, the more deserving team won the game. I have no problem saying Texas deserved to win that game. What I am saying is that all of a sudden, all year the committee said A&M is by and far the best team in the SEC. That's not just me. That's the committee saying by and far A&M is the best team in the SEC. Right?
Yes.
They're number 3. Okay? And then, there's been 3 teams with 1 loss in the SEC to miss the SEC title game in the past 25 years. 2020 Texas A&M, 2025 Ole Miss, 2025 Texas A&M. The only 3 teams with 1 loss in the SEC play to miss that conference game. Now, granted, the realignment and things like that have changed all of that. But if you're sitting there pointing to all the metrics and all the things you're saying you're selecting the committee for, or the committee saying, hey, this is what matters, then A&M should be ahead of Ole Miss. When you look
at it, to me, I'm just looking straight schedules for both of these teams.
Okay.
And this ought to be our last point before we look at how we think the bracket's going to fall out. You look at what Ole Miss did. Beat a number 4 LSU team at home, who was the number 4 team in the country at the time. I get it fell apart after that, basically. You only lost by 8 at Georgia. You beat a number 13 Oklahoma in Norman. They beat the same South Carolina team that you guys had to come back from down 27 at the half by 16. Then you look at A&M. Yeah, you beat Notre Dame on the road at number 8. Congratulations. You had to come back against South Carolina. You faced that same LSU team, albeit when they weren't the number 4 team in the country, when they were the number 20 team in the country. Then you beat Missouri in Columbia by 17. Ole Miss didn't see Missouri this year. But then you got that sneaky loss to Texas at the end of the season, which to me is a worse loss than Ole Miss losing at number 9 Georgia, being their only loss. The committee got it right. 6 for Ole Miss.
They
A&M
didn't
7.
get it right. All right. But that's fine. If we want to compare the schedule, okay. If we really want to look at I just did something on my computer. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay. A&M played probably the worst game, the worst first half of the season, period, in that South Carolina game. Right? And then they came back and they won. All right? That LSU team was the same LSU team that A&M faced. They still had Brian Kelly. They still had Garrett Nussmeier. All right. What was the score of the LSU game versus Ole Miss? I'll tell you, 24-19.
24-19. And
in Autzen Stadium, or in Hemingway Stadium. All right. A&M went into Death Valley and won 49-25 and got Brian Kelly fired. So you beat LSU worse than Ole Miss did. When y'all played Florida, you had to come back to beat Florida.
There's a touchdown difference there.
And then A&M was up 34-10, and Florida scored with 2 minutes left in a garbage time touchdown. You 38-19 versus Mississippi State. A&M won 31-9. You beat Oklahoma 34-26.
You didn't play Oklahoma.
I'm talking about Ole Miss.
Yep.
34-26. That's comparative to Notre Dame 41-40. Right. And then you lost at Georgia 43-35. A&M lost at Texas 27-17.
You beat Arkansas by 3, 45-42. Ole Miss won 41-35.
Yeah, and
so comparable.
So, well, and the thing about that Arkansas game, people love to point out the 3-point win. Arkansas, the last time they had the ball with a chance to take the lead was in the second quarter. So, and A&M had a phantom holding call that the broadcast, you can shake your head all you want. Marcel Reed breaks off a 54-yard touchdown run to make it 51-35, and they call a hold on Jace Basantes because he literally destroyed his man so bad that the guy tried to rush him, and he just went like this. Didn't throw him down. He took his hands and he sat him down, and they called a penalty. And then so you give the ball back, and then Arkansas sucks up all the time to then go down the field and score and make it look like a 3-score game.
It just sounds like excuses.
No, it's not excuses. It's the fact that people love to rag on the fact that they're saying A&M is going to collapse in November, and I understand that that's the history, but this wasn't even supposed to be an A&M versus Ole Miss discussion. This was supposed to be, hey, the committee says we have all these metrics and all these things that we look at, and they don't look at it. They just selectively say, this is who we think is better, and we're going to pull these metrics and point to it.
We'll go back to what you said and what they need to revamp the committee with the right people. But this is what happened. It is what it is. To me, you had nothing to worry about if you beat Texas. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Carlos, that's not the point that we're trying to have. I agree with you. A&M should have just beaten Texas, and it wouldn't have been a problem, right? You would have been at worst 4.
If we're going back to comparing the two, to me, outside of Notre Dame, A&M did not play anybody of note outside of Notre Dame. That, to me, that was worthwhile.
Who did Ole Miss play of note?
Georgia, Oklahoma. To me, two better teams.
Two teams.
They faced 2 top 10 teams and a top 5 team. Okay, if you want to throw LSU into the mix because it was the same, that's fine. But to me, Ole Miss had a harder path to where they're at now than Texas A&M did.
Okay, that's all fine and dandy. They also played Georgia State. They got Washington State before Georgia, who they only won 24-21.
If you want to talk about group of 5 teams, you had UTSA, Utah State, and Samford before Texas.
Okay, and they had the Citadel before Ole Miss. All I'm saying is when we look at, I can't tell if there's somebody at the door or not.
No, it's people
saying
walking
what's
in and
going
out of the
on.
building.
But okay, that is a Utah State team that had losses to A&M, Vanderbilt, had a bad loss to Hawaii, and then took UNLV and Boise State. They lost those 2 games by a combined 4 points. So, and we can see who was better between them and Washington State because they played each other in a bowl game. But you took the 2 teams in your conference that played in the conference title game. You lost them by a combined 4 points.
But then you have UTSA, who went 6-6 this year with losses to A&M, Texas State, at Temple, at North Texas, at South Florida, at Army, and all but the
and Georgia State went 1-11. So if we want to talk about the group of 5 non-conference, A&M still played harder group of 5 non-conference than Ole Miss, and Ole Miss got to play a bad Kentucky team.
I think you're just mad now that you have to run into Ohio State in round 2.
I don't care about playing Ohio State round 2. I care about the committee saying, here's what we judge people on, and then not judging people on that. That's really what it is, okay? And so, we can go back into a roundabout conversation because, can we just sit here and say that all the metrics that A&M, the committee says they judge people on A&M are better? Because that's fact. Strength of record, who's better?
A&M.
Strength of schedule, who's better?
Okay, I'll give you that. But
wins over Saragon top 40 teams, who's better?
I don't think there's a point in just arguing about this anymore because this is what it's spilled out onto the bracket
No,
now.
I understand that. But it's just when I say, hey, this is what I'm upset about, that the committee says they do these things and then they don't. Well, you just have to beat Texas and it doesn't matter. Beating Texas is not what the committee is supposed to judge a team on alone.
I didn't say the committee was judging that. I'm saying that just from my opinion.
I understand.
Like I said, because you had
why
been
are you
talking about
bringing
it all year long ad nauseum, and this
Yes.
is what annoys me about some Aggie fans. They will just all season long drive it home. Oh, we're going to win the national championship this year. I told you at the start of the year, don't put the horse before the cart, or cart before the horse. Don't put it before the horse. Look what happened.
Yes, absolutely. Carlos, before that loss to Texas, did you agree with me that A&M was the best team in the SEC?
Yes.
Okay, so not once have I said A&M's going to win the national title. I said they looked like the favorites from the SEC. There were no disagreements when they were 11-0. And all of a sudden they lost one game. And everybody wants to sit around and then all of a sudden say, same old Aggies. Okay? Same old Aggies don't make the playoffs. So now they have. My only gripe with this is, hey, let's judge people the way we say we're going to judge people when we put them in places. Because also, I don't want to see this isn't even about playing. I love that A&M gets to play Miami. And we actually have a premier matchup in the first round. Okay? I just don't like that all of a sudden we have an Alabama-Oklahoma rematch and an Ole Miss versus Tulane rematch. Right? At least in the other committees, selection committees that we see around, they try to avoid rematches whenever they're putting teams. Often to the chagrin of people. Right? Of like, well,
it's why March Madness doesn't bracket typically conference opponents against each other until much later.
Yes. But I just don't want to see rematches. I want to see something new and fresh. Right? And I think that at the end of the day, the committee got it wrong. And we wouldn't have to worry about that, except that they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting. See how it all spills out. To me, Obviously, everyone wants to say the odds-on favorite is Indiana and Ohio State. To me, if I were to pick a national champion, just looking at the bracket right here, I think my pick will be Texas Tech on the top end of the bracket. Matchup with Indiana in the semifinals, I think they have a slight bit of an edge on them defensively. So I think it's going to be really two good quarterbacks up against each other in Mendoza and Baron Morton. So it'll be – I'm intrigued to see how it all spells out, but my pick is Tech to win the whole thing.
Here's the interesting note. Teams with the bye weeks last year went 0-4.
It's true.
It's hard. It's difficult for me because I'm like, man, when I look at everything, I'm glad that Georgia doesn't get to play in the Peach Bowl that they're on that side of the bracket. I think we're going to see kind of chalk fall. I think Oregon, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and A&M are going to all advance. I think we'll probably see Indiana versus Tech. I think we'll see Georgia. I think the most intriguing game is going to be that Cotton Bowl, especially if A&M is in it. Because I know the committee said, well, we don't want to give Ohio State the Orange Bowl, and then if Miami wins, then they get to play at their home stadium. What is playing A&M in Dallas going to be for Ohio State?
A home game for A&M.
For a home game for A&M. So I think Ohio State kind of got the short end of the stick actually in their draw.
Well, because they were worried about putting it, let's say if Tech ended up in the Cotton Bowl, that's a home game for Tech.
Well, then and see, so that's the part that's unfortunate with A&M being 7 is we could have had an A&M versus Texas Tech Cotton Bowl.
To me,
and that would have been fantastic.
The two most true neutral site games will be Indiana and Oklahoma playing in California, and Georgia and Ole Miss playing in New Orleans. But that's going to be a really good atmosphere because that's very much an easy travel for both of those programs. Tech and Oregon, brutal travel if it's Oregon. If somehow, for whatever reason, James Madison pulls off the upset of a lifetime, there's going to be a lot of purple and gold in Florida because that's just a trip down the East Coast from Harrisonburg. But we can speculate all we want. But
so
I think there was no way to avoid it this year unless you flipped the Cotton Bowl to the semifinals and put the Fiesta Bowl in the quarters instead.
I just don't know. Man, A&M has so much experience playing in AT&T Stadium. A lot of those kids play there since they're in high school.
Right.
Not that Ohio State's going to be like, oh my gosh, the bright lights of a pro stadium.
No, they're fine.
But so that game, I think the winner of A&M versus Ohio State is going to be in the championship versus Indiana. No hate against the Red Raiders. I think Indiana with Kurt Cignetti. I think Fernando Mendoza.
They're legit.
I mean, he might win the Heisman. He might be the number 1 overall pick in the draft this year. So that's an Ohio State team and Julian saying that blitzed everybody. And we talk about losing coaches. Ohio State lost their play caller. And I don't know. I know A&M lost their play caller, but he's with A&M through the playoffs. I don't know if Brian Hartline is through with Ohio State through the playoffs. I haven't seen that communication. If he's just like, hey, I'm gone to USF, and I'm just got to worry about that. So I think Indiana comes out of the top half of that bracket. I think the winner of A&M the winner of the Cotton Bowl is going to win that bottom half of the bracket. And I think ultimately we'll win the national championship. Because I don't think you beat Ohio State twice if you're Indiana. And I think if A&M gets there, having won 3 straight over Georgia, Ohio State, and Miami, that's playing football as good as anybody in the country.
If you want 12-year-old me's hope, it would be the 2 Texas teams in the championship.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. And that's when you say, hey, I know it's scheduled for Miami, but we're actually going to move it to freaking NRG or
move it somewhere else.
Move it. We're going to move it to Texas. We're going to move it to the Cotton Bowl. The actual Cotton Bowl.
Yes,
That would be
that would be exciting.
yes.
So we'll see. All right, enough college talk. Actually, one more touch. Heisman finalists were announced. It is going to be 3 quarterbacks and Jeremiah Love. Fernando Mendoza at Indiana, Julian Sayin from Ohio State, Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, and then Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. We already talked about how we feel like Jeremiah Love's shot at the Heisman's been, dashed because of Notre Dame's decisions, or what Notre Dame will say is the ACC's decisions, or the CFP. So really, you're down to 3 quarterbacks if you look at it: Mendoza, Sayin, and Pavia. For me, just from a football lens alone, I can't believe I'm saying Diego Pavia is a Heisman finalist, given I saw him 2 years ago at New Mexico State when Sam Houston played him in Las Cruces, and I thought, yeah, he's a good quarterback, and then he changed college football forever.
Man, yeah, I was shocked to see his name there.
Who do you put in instead of Pavia?
Man,
Take the Aggie lenses off.
no, I know. Like I looked at the stats, and honestly, I don't think, as much as I love Marcel, and I think he'll be in the top 7 vote getters, I think his performance against Texas really took that out, and which is just unfortunate. I don't think he played the same after he got dinged up. Man, as much as it. As hokey as I think that they've been with it, I really think Jacob Rodriguez probably, if we're gonna have a player that kind of is more of a viral sensation
Be
then
him.
it would be Jacob Rodriguez. That guy is one of the best football players in the country. As much as it pains me to say, just because I think some of the stuff they've done about, we have to get him. They're saying it's only quarterbacks this year, so we're going to put him in at quarterback. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff, but the way that he impacts games, both in the run and the pass, I mean, he does it more than Manti Te'o did.
Mm-hmm.
Manti Te'o finished second in the Heisman voting. So I really think Jacob Rodriguez probably should have had that 4th seat over Diego Pavia. I understand why Diego Pavia got it. A historic season for Vanderbilt. He is the reason why. But yeah, Jacob Rodriguez, the season he's had, I'm not anti-defense in the Heisman. I think they need to rename the Heisman Trophy to the best college quarterback award and just be a quarterback, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Nowadays, but him, it's tough. I think Jeremiah Smith may have had a chance if they didn't rest him, which gets into a whole other conversation about load management in college football. I never thought we'd see, but yeah, I would say him, man. Just with the way he impacts the game and the turnovers and the leadership calling that defense at Texas Tech, that's been so just fantastic all year long. I really wish he would have at least gotten a seat in New York and been able to be there, and they talk a little bit about him too.
We'll see what happens. Now time to talk NFL. Our two teams on different ends of the spectrum. John, I'll start.
Still alive, man.
They're still alive, but 14-point loss to the Lions, tough.
Yeah, there were some game-changing penalties in there that, I don't want to get into officiating in the NFL any more than we already have to, but at the end of the day, you didn't play well in the first half. I thought Dak played really, really well in the second half. I know he has two turnovers. He had 2 interceptions that if you go and you watch, those are off receivers' hands, and it's just like, I really don't think those should be counted against a quarterback. If, a receiver pops a ball hits a receiver in the hands,
pops it into
the air, that, give the interception to the defense, but it shouldn't count against the quarterback's interception total, because that's not his fault. He made the right decision. The guy's open. Losing CeeDee Lamb kind of was the turning point in that game, so I'm hoping we get him back this week, have a 10-day week. But the Eagles are doing all they can to help the Cowboys. So they got the NFL playoff machine on ESPN right now that I'm kind of going through, and I'm working to try try to see what the possibilities are. But overall, man, I think the Cowboys, for a season that I thought was done after week 3 or 4, after that loss to the Cardinals, for the team that Jerry Jones has assembled this season to make the playoffs look like a real chance, I think is very impressive. I have to give a shout out to Jerry Jones on that. But next year is the year that they're building towards. So I sit there and I'm like, man, do I want us to win? Do I want us to make the playoffs, or do I want us to have a better pick? So either way, man, It is a nice sense of, well, we lost, but it's not that bad. Like,
Yeah.
there's this season, making the playoffs would be the icing on the cake, so to say.
Indeed it would. And then I'm also working my way through the playoff machine right now, so Justin, you can feel free to weigh on this as well.
Y'all's Texans, man, they're doing some things.
Yeah, they are.
Sure are.
Very much was nervous on Sunday night because
Prime time.
You're in Arrowhead. We've seen this before.
I was there. Yeah,
I'm just watching this game, and I'm like, man, they're gonna just pull off something, and the refs are gonna hurt Houston at some point, which I thought they were through most of that game because the Texans very much got outflagged, or very much outflagged the Chiefs. If we want to talk refereeing, but that's another topic for another day. But defense did the job. To me, the backbreaker for KC was going for it in your own territory, not getting it, and giving a short field to Stroud, and then, of all people, Darian Gumbawale finishes off the drive with a touchdown.
That was shocking that they went for that. Me and Christian were sitting there watching the game together, and both of us just kind of looked at each other like, why are they going for it? Like, this is the best defense in the NFL. Why are you playing this game, Kansas City?
and they played it and lost. So I really was impressed with what they did. Stroud did not look like himself in the second half, but also the other thing too, the offensive line just could not stop the blitz to save them, whether it was Stroud getting sacked because of the blitz or being pressured enough to make a bad pass. Like, Stroud had 3 completions.
Well,
in the second half.
Third quarter, we had -2 yards.
Negative
I remember
2
looking
yards
over
of
to Christian and
offense.
being like, hey, do we have any yards this quarter? And then right as I said that, it came up on the screen like Texans at -2 yards. I'm like, oh, cool.
And so that was tough. But at the end of the day, it was an ugly win, but you got the win.
An ugly win is a win.
You finally exercised those demons in Kansas City. And I'm not saying the Chiefs are demons. I'm saying the Texans playing in Kansas City.
And in prime time.
And in prime time. So we're finally able to get that out. And now you're 8-5 in the playoffs if the season ended today. And you started 0-3, and now you've rattled off 5 in a row, beating Jacksonville, Indy with a healthy Daniel Jones, Buffalo, and now Kansas City. You've beaten the best teams in the AFC.
This schedule was a gauntlet. Like, this was the part a few weeks ago when you and I were like, look, this is going to determine, like, what they are.
It's going to determine the season.
They have risen up. They have shown that they belong. They have shown that 0-3 was, I don't know if I want to say a fluke, but certainly not the norm of what this team is. I did not think in my adult life I would see this team start 0-3 and make the playoffs twice, but here we are. It's fine. We love it.
Yeah, and now they've got themselves on the right path. Now you got 2, I won't say gimme games, but essentially that's what they are.
Nah, you can't treat them that way.
But you can't go in like that. You got to go in, take care of your business, beat Las Vegas, beat Arizona, and call it good.
It was one of these screams trap game to me, man.
To me, it would be the Arizona.
feeling.
It would be the Arizona game that stands out as a trap game to me.
Like,
I tell you, those Arizona Cardinals are tough.
They are, and we're up against, and you'd be up against Jacoby Brissett, who has beaten you in the past.
Still making a living for himself in the Big 25. That's incredible.
So I'll be intrigued to see what happens on that front. But
hey, I have y'all going 11-6 and being the 7th seed in the playoffs.
Is that what you just finished on the predictor?
Yeah. So am I? So I don't know if you've seen this, Justin, but
I haven't.
the ESPN, they have a playoff machine. So you just go through, and it's real simple. You pick the games. You pick each game through the remaining weeks of the season, so the last 4 weeks now. And it will just basically worry about all the tiebreakers. You're not having to be like, oh, well, is this 11-6 team in over this 11-6 team, and so on. So I'll start with y'all's AFC.
Okay.
All right, I have Denver. I have at 14-3, number 1 seed. New England at 2, the 2nd seed at 14-3. Jacksonville at the 3 seed at 12-5. Pittsburgh at 9-8 is the 4.
Golly.
Mike
Nice.
9-8. Tomlin right there.
The streak lives.
I have Buffalo at 13-4 is the 5. I have the Chargers at 12-5 as the 6, and then I have y'all as the 7 versus New England at 11-6.
Oof.
For the NFC, I have the Chargers at 14-3, the Bears second at 13-4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 3rd seed at 11-6. I have the Dallas Cowboys at 10-6-1 in the 4 seed. I have Seattle at 13-4 as the 5 seed. Green Bay 11-5-1 as the 6 seed, and San Francisco at 11-6 as the 7. So that tie right there comes back to help the Cowboys, because I have Philadelphia finishing 10-7.
I'm almost done with predicting this, and I'm just doing this as I see the matchups
Yep.
come across the screen. And all right, now I'm on week 18. LA over Arizona, Denver over LA, KC over the Raiders, Pats over the Dolphins, Eagles over the Commanders, Steelers over the Ravens.
Pats over the Dolphins is a bold choice.
It's in Foxborough.
No.
So
Okay.
Seattle over San Francisco, Texans over the Colts, Cowboys over the Giants, Bengals over Browns, Bears over Lions, Atlanta over New Orleans, Buffalo over New York, Green Bay over Minnesota, Carolina over Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville over Tennessee. So, after planning out over the final 4 weeks of the season, I have Denver as the number 1 seed. I say they win out. They go 15-2. New England will win out. Or, sorry, we'll have a loss to Denver in there somewhere, but will be the 2 at 15-2. Jacksonville is the 3 at 12-5. Pittsburgh is in at the 4 at 10-7. LA in at 5th at the 5 seed, playing Pittsburgh at 12-5. Texans at the 6 seed, matching up with Jacksonville again in the wild card round, and then Buffalo in as the 7th seed, 11-6. NFC, LA is the number 1 at 13-4. Green Bay 2, 12-4-1. Philadelphia finishes 12-5. I think Hurts just didn't look like himself last night, and I think he'll figure it out.
We say as the highlights from the
As the games are up on the
McAfee
Pat
show.
McAfee show right now. That was just a tough game for him last night.
Hey, James P. Sullivan had the game of a lifetime.
And see, you talk about it right there. A ball hitting
Yes.
A.J. Brown's hands, and it goes
And
for
it just
one of
goes-
those interceptions. Carolina in at the 4, which, by the way, I mean, kudos to Carolina for turning their program or franchise around.
Mm-hmm.
They're in at the 4 at 11-6. Chicago is the 5 seed at 12-5. Seattle the 6 at 12-5. Detroit last team in at 11-6. I have Dallas finishing 9-7-1.
Okay, yeah. So I'm guessing you have them losing to the Chargers.
In week was that 16?
16.
Yes.
Yes.
I have them winning against Minnesota, and then
The rest of the schedule is fantastic for the Cowboys. It's that Chargers game is really what it's going to come down to, which is unfortunate that you lost to Detroit. That was the only bad thing about that loss for playoff hopes. Personally, I think the Eagles are kind of done. They've lost 3 straight. I think that they're gonna bounce back and beat the Raiders this week. But then I think having to go to Washington.
I think that's still winnable.
Is it's winnable, but
And
then they have to go at Buffalo. I feel like that game at Buffalo favors the Bills.
If I flip it to Buffalo, it moves Buffalo to the 6th seed, Houston down to the 7. On the other side, that puts Philadelphia in as the 4 seed, Carolina at the 3 seed. Who did that drop out? I'm not sure who that dropped out there. Hang on, let me flip it back. Oh, that just flipped Philadelphia and Carolina. So if Buffalo wins that, so now if you flip Eagles Washington to Washington, it still puts Philadelphia in winning the division at the 4 seed.
Yes. So the Cowboys have to win out.
Yeah, they have to win out.
Philadelphia has to lose 2 games.
So then flip Dallas, and then Dallas would, if they beat LA, would be in as the 4. Okay.
Yeah. So and it's unfortunate. I mean, for the Cowboys, that their team was not the team they are now was not the team that they were at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the way the Panthers ran on them, nobody's really run on them that way since they added Quinnen Williams. The Cardinals' loss was just ugly. They really should have won that. So if they beat the Panthers and the Cardinals like they should have, then we're talking about a team that's 8-4-1 that's in first place for the division. That and I think would be, what does 8-4-1 get them in the conference? That has them as the 3 seed in the conference. So overall, like I said, I'm not going to consider this season a complete failure if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, because after they lost that game against the Panthers and really against the Bears before we knew how good the Bears were, I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is going to be a rough season. But
all right, moving on. Texas high school football. We are down to the Final 4 in each division, and that's what we predicted at the start of the playoffs, was the winners out of each region, and then who we thought was going to be in the title game, who was going to be a dark horse, yada, yada, yada. So we'll go 6A all the way down through 3A, which is what we predicted. Starting with 6A D1, I'll start with my predictions. I went 3-1 in my predictions. Allen winning Region 1, which they did. North Shore winning Region 3. Lake Travis won Region 4. My outlier was Klein Collins. I thought they were going to roll through, but then Duncanville said, no, sir. So it'll be Allen and Duncanville playing in Mesquite, and North Shore and Lake Travis, they are going to be at Thorne Stadium in Aldine.
yeah, I went 2-2. I had Waxahachie and Cibolo Steel in Region 2 and Region 4. Steel lost, I believe, to...
They lost to San Antonio Johnson.
San Antonio Johnson around 3. My dark horse was Lake Travis, so I take some...
Get a little credit out of that.
Little credit out of that. Waxahachie, I thought that this was finally the year they were going to break through against North Shore. It was not. But I had Allen over Steel, so if Lake Travis upsets North Shore, then I'll take that as a correct prediction. But Allen has looked unstoppable. Beat defending state champ North Crowley really convincingly last week.
33-21.
Yeah, just they look like the Allen of old. So
they do. I had North Shore in the title game of winning over Allen, so that
still
is
alive.
Still very much on the table as well. My dark horse was Cibolo Steel, and they got just 1 point loss, brutal.
Yes,
to San Antonio Johnson. 6AD2. Boy, did that get interesting really quick. I went 3-1. South Lake Carroll won Region 1 rather convincingly. DeSoto out of Region 2 took care of business. Really rolled through pretty much everyone they had to play. And then Austin Vandegrift rolling through Region 4. Dripping Springs gave him a little bit of a fight in the regional final, but Vandegrift hung on. But my dark horse, C.E. King, is in the semis playing Vandegrift at Baylor this week. And South Lake Carroll and DeSoto, they'll be at Newsom Stadium. Wow. How about King?
Yeah, man. It's tough because I had North Shore or I had Summer Creek winning state, not just Region 3. But shout out the Fighting Emma Sims of CE King.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, man, of course the one team that I picked to win is the one team that doesn't make it out of the regional final. But
I mean, I had Summer Creek over DeSoto too, so
yeah, but you still have a dark horse. So
yeah.
you
So
know,
the team that beat my pick.
Yeah.
So
So I had Summer Creek over South Lake Carroll. So this one you can still win if we're going head to head.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great game on Friday night or Saturday
Mhm.
between those. No, it's Friday night between those two, and so I really do think now the winner is probably going to be the winner of DeSoto versus South Lake Carroll. The scary thing is DeSoto still has not played a complete game.
Yeah.
There's still, and there were extracurriculars and stuff that were going on at that game
Against Willis.
but they still have not played a complete game. So, man, it's tough that's my first state champ. Well, one of my two state champions to fall so far, but gotta give a shout out to Emma Sims and
Yes.
her dad, who's on the staff over at CE King, and their run. They were picked to miss the playoffs in the preseason, and now they're in the state
Look at 'em now.
semifinals. So
That's why I don't pay attention to any of those preseason things, because you got to still play the games.
yep.
581. Let's see. I went 3-1. Pesky Region 2. Aledo took care of their business in Region 1. Region 2. My pick was Highland Park. They lost in the regional final to Frisco Lone Star. And then Port Arthur Memorial ran their way through Region 3. And then Region 4 went to Smithson Valley. They took that with pretty much a lot of ease, having shutouts in their first two games and then a shutout of New Braunfels in the regional final. So I went 3-1 there. My pick is Aledo over Smithson Valley. Dark horse was Cedar Park. They got bounced early. My state champion still is in play in 581.
Yeah, I had Aledo over College Station. College Station had a really good fight against Port Arthur Memorial. I was at that game on the sidelines. The final score kind of got away from College Station at the end after they went for it on 4th and goal and turned the ball over with about 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And then Port Arthur Memorial scored a touchdown, picked the ball off, scored another touchdown.
Yeah, so the final was a little inflated.
Was a little inflated, but I went 2-2. Still mad that PSJA North got messed over the way they did by that Bernie team, or by a Bernie champion team that got bounced. Pflugerville Weiss was my dark horse. They made it all the way to the regional semifinal, lost by 2 to Barbers Hill. But I mean, I had Aledo and Frisco Lone Star, and Aledo's still in it, so I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah. All right, now on to 582. This is around my neck of the woods. I went 2-2. I went 2-2.
Yeah,
I picked Walnut Grove to come out of Region 1, but they lost in the semis to Argyle. Melissa was the one that came out of Region 1, which to some came as a little bit of a shock, them taking down Argyle 20-19. Came back to do that, by the way.
after missing the playoffs last year,
Yeah.
too. Yes.
South Oak Cliff took care of Region 2. I thought Port Neches Groves would have given a little bit more of a fight to Sauk, but not having Connor Bailey in there was obviously a hindrance to them, but still fought hard to get to a regional final regardless. Randall got by Iowa Colony 45-35. Iowa Colony was my pick, and then Bernie was my other correct one as they went all the way into the state semis, beating Alamo Heights in the regional final.
Yep, I went 2-2 as well. Had Richmond Randall and South Oak Cliff as my state championship game. Participants, so they're obviously in. And then, Argyle. I had Argyle, lost to Melissa by 1. And I had Alamo Heights that lost by a touchdown. So, tough right there. But so far, all my picks have made at least the regional semifinals.
Yes.
I feel good about that.
We haven't had anybody that got bounced, early.
Until
round 1 and 2.
4A Division 1.
Until we get to 4A
and
Division
then
1.
Austin LBJ just let me down.
So 4A Division 1. Let's see. I went 2-2. I got Region 3 and 4 right. I went Ysleta and Springtown in Region 1. Ysleta got bounced round 1 bad by Canyon. Stephenville ended up winning the region, taking down Canyon West Plains. Or Amarillo West Plains, I should say. So they're in. Salina won Region 2, beat Alvarado 52-27. Springtown lost in the regional semis. But Kilgore and Lavernia were my faithful, winning Region 3 and Region 4. Kilgore rolled by Alameda Crawford. You and I went and watched the first half of that at Huntsville ISD Stadium, who got to host that. But one thing's for certain, Crawford is going to be a force in what we expect to be 582 next year.
Yeah, dude, they got some guys, man. And if Richmond, Randall, and Iowa Colony don't move up, which we think they will, that is going to be a killer district with the three of them, all within about a 10-mile radius of each other. I had Springtown and Austin LBJ in 2 and 4 that both got bounced. But I had Stephenville over Kilgore in the state championship. So,
Still on the table.
Bo Bentley has not played for Salina in the past 2 games. They ran Wildcat last game. They had no receivers. They just literally put the ball down and said, okay, we're going to fight in a phone booth. And that went over Alvarado. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the two of them between Stephenville and Salina. I think Kilgore, honestly, we saw it the other night, really just dominate over Fort Bend Crawford, a team that just was blowing people out left and right.
Yep.
So I feel really good about them versus Lavernia making that state championship game, and I think Stephenville, if they win, that's the more battle tested side of the bracket.
It is.
So
4A Division 2 is where I fell apart. I went 0 and 4. None of mine got to the state semis.
Not even
I
a dark
believe. Nope, not even. Well, my dark horse was Carthage, which was kind of a dark horse.
Cheater.
Carthage got to the state semi, so I have a dark horse in there. But Pleasant Grove got to a semi. I picked out of Region 2. Belleville, I picked in Region 3. They let me down early, losing to China Spring. Bandera lost in round 1 to Gonzales, and then Greenwood got to the regional final, but lost to Brock. So, Brock versus Carthage, West Orange Stark versus Sinton in the state semis.
Yeah, great job by West Orange Stark. They got kind of written off in the start of the season, went 2 and 3 in non-district play, and then rallied off 5 straight wins to finish 7 and 3 and win district.
Beat a really good Waco La Vega team.
And then beat a Waco La Vega team that I picked to make not just win Region 3, but make the state championship game. Other than that, I had Sinton, I had Brock, I had Carthage. Sinton, probably the best season in the history of the program.
Probably.
Besides 2001, which was the last time they made a state championship game. Until somebody beats Scott Surratt, I'm just gonna ride with Carthage. The Bulldogs are a winning machine. They're probably the best team out in the state of Texas, in the history of the state of Texas, outside of Aledo. It does sting not having La Vega in the championship game, because that would have been another state championship where both teams were alive. But I have faith in KJ Edwards and Jet Surratt in that Carthage backfield to will them to another state championship game.
Shall see. 3AD1, again, went 0 and 4. I picked Jim Ned out of Region 1, and they got rolled in the regional semis to Paradise. I picked Gladewater out of Region 2, and they lost to Grandview in the area round. I had Fairfield out of Region 3. They lost to Yoakum in the area round. And then I had Raymondville out of Region 4. And Raymondville, am I looking at the wrong thing here? Where's Raymondville at? Out of Region 4. Anyway, that's who I had picked. And, they lost in round 1 to Orange Grove. So, it all came out, as it all panned out, Peaster versus Grandview and Yoakum versus my dark horse in Llano.
Yeah, this is the first state championship game that both teams are out for me. I had Franklin over Jim Ned. Obviously, just talked about Jim Ned Franklin lost to a really good Columbus team. That's become a annual Thanksgiving rivalry in the playoffs between those two teams, and I think that Columbus just had experience. Hey, we know how to stop the Franklin slot T, and we're able to slow it down. Obviously, as you said, who made it out of Region 3 again?
That would have been Yoakum.
Yoakum. So, yeah, that's right, because Yoakum beat Columbus in the regional final. And Yoakum, man, they produce some ball players.
Yes, they do.
So, yeah, I had Pottsboro and Lano, so I went 2-2, but not going to get, if we were, doing like, hey, points for whoever gets in the stuff, would not get any points in this division whatsoever. But, man, Grandview versus Peaster, probably the most surprising state semifinal. I know it's number one on Texas football's wildest state semifinals of the season so far, but that's going to be a good game.
Yes.
And it's just surprising, man, that one of those two teams is going to be in Arlington when it's all said and done.
That's right. And then lastly, 3AD2. The state semis ended up being Wall versus Gunter, and then Newton versus East Bernard. I picked Canadian out of Region 1. They got bounced regional semifinals to Idalou, but Wall ended up beating them in the regional final. I had Gunter, and Gunter really had a pretty clear path all the way into the state semis. Put it this way, their closest win was Gunter over Leonard, and they won 45-14. Region 3, I had Newton come out of that. Newton's been just running roughshod in Region 3 all year long. They're in the same district as New Waverly, so I keep an eye on that district quite a bit. Newton rolled by ARP in the regional final, 66-20. But then East Bernard has turned it on, got a close win in the area round over Poth, really beat down Lexington, and then upsets Tidehaven in the regional final to get to the state semis. That game's at Randall Reed on Thursday, it looks like. So
yeah, they're going to play on Thursday because that's when they'll be playing at Arlington, so they want to have that usual week. East Bernard, really good program down in Region 4. They just always would run into Tidehaven and lose.
Yep.
And so now finally getting over that Tidehaven hump, what do you get? You get historically a great program in Newton. I think I had Gunter over Tidehaven. I went 3-1. Tidehaven was the only one that lost. But I mean, man, it just Gunter is. We're going to talk about a different Gunter
in just a second,
in like a couple minutes. But the Texas high school football Gunter, they are just a machine up there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I just. Man, it's hard for me to be too disappointed overall when looking at it. I have six of my 8 state champions still in play, but I feel good, and it's gonna be a fantastic weekend in 2 weeks. We're gonna have college football playoff, Texas high school state championships, the whole shebang.
doesn't get better.
Doesn't get any better. If you can, and here's what I'll say. I don't know if they still do it because I don't know how much of a cheapskate Jerry Jones is. If you have the opportunity, go to the state championship football game. I think you pay for one ticket. You get in 3 games during the day. It's like $25. You get to sit on the first bowl of AT&T Stadium. So, and you get to go into the club area, and you get to go in all the places you can't go whenever there's, a big-time college football game or a Cowboys game going on there.
It's a cool experience.
It's cool. You get to see these guys that are going to be playing a lot of football at the next level. If you go for the bigger divisions, the smaller divisions are always great games. They're always close. So.
And the people come out.
And
the towns of let's say Gunter and Newton.
They shut down the town. And
they're going to be gone.
Comes.
Don't go to Gunter or Newton if they're in the state championship because you're not going to find anything open. It's going to be an empty ghost town because they're all going to be in Dallas.
And it is just one of the coolest environments. I went and I watched Kyler Murray go play there whenever he was an A&M signee. My high school got to play there my senior year, So that was really cool, getting to cover that as a student reporter. I've gotten to cover state championship games there. But, sometimes, man, we'll go, and then we get up there, let's say we're playing on the Friday night game for College Station, right? Okay, Saturday, we go up there and we watch the game. Because everybody's radio booths were already up there, so everybody's already in a booth. So we just sit there and watch the Friday game from the radio booth. Or I'll go down and I'll just go sit and watch the Saturday games if we play on Friday night. Watch the Saturday games.
Yeah.
And just pay $25 to watch 3 football games. There's not a better deal.
Nope.
In the world for that, and so
get out
there, even if your team's not there, just go and watch and support the athletes, and you're gonna watch kids that you're gonna be cheering for in 10 years on Sundays.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's just overall a fantastic time.
Indeed. Now our last segment, something that's a little known secret here on the podcast, but me and John are very much fans of the WWE. You can say it's fake all you want. It's still entertaining to us.
It is choreographed.
It is choreographed.
It is choreographed storytelling.
Yes, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yes.
And it is truly this Saturday from the Capital One Arena in the nation's capital. It is going to be the end of an era for a lot of people, the capper of their childhood, if you will, when it comes to watching wrestling from when they're kids to now. This Saturday is John Cena's final match in his 26-year wrestling career. He is going to face against one of the more premier wrestlers of the current age of WWE, Gunther, who won the last time is now tournament over LA Knight, and that will be the matchup and the main event of Saturday night's main event on Saturday night, which will be quite a somber day for everybody that grew up. Who grew up watching wrestling, when you hear WWE, there's honestly 2 wrestlers that come to mind right away. The Undertaker, John Cena, who have revolutionized what wrestling is today.
Yeah, I mean, first, the two names that came to my mind was John Cena and Hulk Hogan. But that just shows you that John Cena transcended wrestler, right? And we've seen that, The Rock was a great professional wrestler. He's a better actor.
Yes.
John Cena is the greatest professional wrestler of all time. 17 world titles. So many iconic moments. His 60-minute match with the Heartbreak Kid that ended in a draw is one of the greatest matches of all time. And not that The Rock, like we saw The Rock wrestle at WrestleMania 2 years ago. Not that he doesn't want to be known as a wrestler, but he wants to be a businessman. He wants to be an actor. He does a lot of things. John Cena wants to still be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And so, he's facing a guy that is the consummate bad guy of the WWE right now, in Gunther. I've loved watching what I've been able to watch with the new, where they're showing Raw and SmackDown. I haven't been able to keep up as much with John Cena's farewell tour this year as I would have liked, but it's been a great story. Beating Cody Rhodes, coming back, going heel, going back to a face, which for people who don't know, heel's a bad guy, face is a good guy. And it's going to be weird because, we saw John Cena wrestle and he lost to Solo Sikoa. But you felt like, okay, that can't be the end of it.
No.
And, he's not. That's more to put Solo over than John Cena.
Well, and that just shows what kind of guy Cena is.
Because that's the difference between Cena and Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan never put over the young guys. He was going to win. And Cena doesn't mind putting guys over, which is another wrestling term for, hey, I'm going to lose so this guy has notoriety, for the people at home that don't know wrestling terms. But it is going to be strange because now we're going to have to start talking about John Cena, the future WWE Hall of Famer, in the past.
Yeah.
Right? That he'll be around, and I'm sure he'll make appearances just like The Undertaker makes appearances.
Oh, easily.
Stone Cold makes appearances. Even The Rock makes his appearances. I don't think The Rock's going to wrestle for a little bit now. But it is going to be weird. I think John Cena, we're going to see him inducted into the Hall of Fame next year.
Yeah.
WrestleMania weekend. I have no doubt. But for a guy that carried the company for so long, through so many changes, too. We saw, Raw's War. He kind of came in at the very end of that Attitude Era, and this company transitioned into the PG era. He was like, okay, hey, I'll Vince McMahon, for all his qualms and stuff, bet on the right horse of John Cena being the guy to carry the company.
He went through so many different phases of it,
and
he led the company out of COVID.
Yep.
And was reinserted himself as the face. I mean, he came back at Money in the Bank, the first pay-per-view since they were allowed to have fans back in the arenas, and he makes his return at the end. And it's the loudest pop I've ever heard in my life until CM Punk came back a couple years later. He's really the face that has just transcended so many different eras. I mean, because I'll just say for my background as a wrestling fan, the first ever pay-per-view I ever watched was WrestleMania 29. Mm-hmm. So I got into the game very late, if you will, from a wrestling standpoint. But I thought it was cool and everything. Didn't watch it much after that. Then I really got into it. I have a group of friends online that I met through just we all met through NASCAR and our love for it. But they also were big fans of wrestling, so I watched the 2017 Royal Rumble, and from there I was hooked.
Yeah.
And then I've been watching it nonstop ever since. When I can, obviously, because it's changed a lot. Raw's on Netflix now. SmackDown is back on USA, and ESPN now has all the PLEs, which, by the way, they've changed pay-per-views
to
premium live events. And now NXT's on the CW. It's all over the place. I mean, it's money at the end of the day with these TV contracts, but I still try to watch when I can. And Saturday night, it will be, I mean, I'll just say it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Some tears may be shed because this guy has meant so much to so many different people in so many different ways, from even outside of the ring.
Yes.
His involvement with foundations like Make-A-Wish and all the different foundations he's a part of have just changed people's lives for the better.
Yeah.
And to not have that face at the forefront of the biggest wrestling company in the world would be tough to watch.
I mean, yeah,
But you knew it was going to end at some point.
Yeah, you knew it was going to end. You just didn't know when. And for me, I got into it even later. My first wrestling match I ever watched was Cody Rhodes' return versus Seth Rollins. Mm. So I didn't start watching wrestling until I was 22 years old. And even I knew who John Cena was.
Everyone does.
That's how big John Cena is. And you're right. We talked a lot about him as the wrestler so far right now, but him as a person and what he does for the nonprofits. He never says no. He is the most requested Make-A-Wish person of all time. And I don't think he's ever said no to any of them.
No.
And he's done such a good job with guys like Cody Rhodes and younger guys in the company of teaching them how to fill his shoes, that now Cody Rhodes is becoming a John Cena-like figure. And that he's getting all the Make-A-Wish kids now are saying, I want to meet Cody Rhodes. And guess what? He's doing it. The kids are meeting with Cody Rhodes all the time. There's no change. So not only has he done it himself, he's taught this next generation of wrestlers to give back. So I think you're absolutely right. I think tears will be shed. I think win or lose, we both have thoughts of what's going to happen on Saturday night. I really don't know if if he is going to win or not. And I know that you can say, well, it's all fake and stuff. Depends on what the writers want. What's the best story? And the thing with John is he's not afraid to be like, if the best story is me losing, then I'll lose.
And to me, if he loses, they're going to definitely cut to a shot of him laying down in the ring. And then as he starts to stir up, the crowd at Capital One Arena is going to be the loudest it's ever been.
And even if he loses, he's going to win.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to talk about because this is a guy that's meant so much to so many people, and it's hard to see that your heroes wither away, and we're so used to it in sports. Think about for you guys, Matt Schaub, right? For me, it was Tony Romo. Okay, we're gonna watch it with Jose Altuve in these next couple years.
We will,
as Jose starts to get less and less ABs, and he's having to DH more, and then eventually he's gonna have to go away. I think about Craig Biggio going to his last game as a kid, right? John Cena is up there on those levels. He's one of the most famous people in the world, and so Saturday night we're gonna see the end of an era that like no other. Because even Hulk didn't last this long. The Rock didn't last this long. The only guy that's wrestling longer than John Cena is Ric Flair. And sometimes I'm like, Rick, dude, you got to hang it up. Like, Rick is still out there.
And the big thing about it is, like, it sucks because you feel like it's part of your childhood that's starting to wither away altogether. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen at some point, but you look at it from a sports lens. I mean, LeBron's on his last legs.
Oh man.
And to me, the turning point there, not to get off on another tangent, but the turning point there was him passing up a game-winning shot the other night to Rui Hachimura to win the game
and end his streak
and his double-digit streak.
Yeah.
That tells me at the end of the day, like he knows that he's not going to be the guy much longer.
Yeah.
So it feels like all our childhoods are starting to wither away, but it's giving way to new young guys that'll come through. And, everyone's been through this cycle. MJ didn't play forever, even though he tried. And guys like, Roger Clemens didn't play forever, but he tried. I think now for John Cena, the time is now for him to hang up the boots and move on to whatever's next, whether that be continuing his acting career, more Peacemaker, and getting to still be involved in WWE, but in a different way, instead of wrestling. So we tip our caps to him and his all his great things he did for our childhoods and for just wrestling in general. And it'll be sad on Saturday night, but it'll be fun to watch. There's a lot of other great matches on the card as well that I'm excited about. Cody Rhodes is taking on the NXT champion Opafemi, which will be a really cool one to see, a champion versus champion. Yeah. There's a great tag team match on the card, so it'll be a good show. But obviously the focus will be on the main event Saturday night. And
I don't think it's the main event, is it? It got moved back to the main event.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I wouldn't have that be the opener. It would make total sense for it to be the last one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's the end. I saw something at first that I thought it was going to be
middle of the show
or the opener.
The opener.
Yeah, but
no, you got to close the show with that Gunther and John Cena. So and a lot could happen. So we'll see. Okay, I think that does it for another edition of Beyond the Mic. We missed you last week, but life was quite busy. But now we're back into the full swing. Next week at this time, we'll have an idea of what we won't have first round games yet of the CFP. So it might be a week next week. We can maybe put it on the back burner and wait until after, right before Christmas.
Starting to be less and less college football.
And we can maybe introduce some more college hoops, some more. We'll be deep into MLB offseason. There were some moves that were made today already. So we can maybe bring baseball back into the picture because that'll be back in our lives before long. But we'll have state championship matchups in the high school, in Texas high school football. So that'll be something to talk about. And we'll keep on rolling along as we wind down 2025 and look ahead to 2026. So it'll be a lot of fun. But appreciate y'all joining us. Don't forget, follow us on Apple and Spotify, and so you don't miss out on any episodes as they release. Subscribe to the KSAM YouTube channel. Still trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're still a little ways away, but help us make it happen. And for our group here, producer Justin and John Clendenin, I'm Carlos Zimmermann. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time here on Beyond the Mic.